everyone, this is Marty with Pezzadoodle Designs, and I'm here with another in the series of making your own flower embellishments. This video is sponsored by favecrafts.com, and you can see laid out here I have a whole variety of different things, but it's really some same basic materials. Felt, fabric, ribbon, buttons is your basic things that you see that make all of these little items. Now, I'm going to start with saying, most of you probably know this, a lot of you may not know this, but you can cut fabric and felt very, very easily with your manual die cut machines. So I use a lot of the Sizzix dies, the thick ones, not the Sizzlits. And then I also use a lot of Spellbinders dies. The Spellbinders dies cut through felt beautifully. Really, really super easy. So I will get a piece of felt, cut it the size of my Cuttlebug, lay a bunch of different Spellbinders dies on it and run them all through at once, do it in a bunch of different sizes, and then I keep them on hand so that I can quickly pick out a few and layer them for my embellishments. Now I'll also take them upstairs sometimes in the evening and get a little fancier. These I did for Christmas and just did a little bit of embroidery on them. And this doesn't take too long. It's not very fancy, but it does add to the look of the little embellishments. And these are so popular right now with a lot of the different scrapbook companies. Now you'll also see some other things here. Let's move the little felt stacks out of the way. These are little fabric yo-yos. Now you can purchase these already made, but then you're stuck with whatever color combinations of fabrics the maker has chosen to use. So I wanted to show you really quickly just how easy it is to make these with these clover templates. It's a two-piece thing. They come in different sizes. They even come in different shapes. And all you do is lay your fabric in it, snap the other piece back in, and then you'll trim around the edges all the way down. You'll want that little fabric edge. So you can see here I'm just trimming right along this top of the plastic along the template. So you just trim your excess off, and I am using a fabric called Fairy Frost. It is spectacular because it has shimmer in it. Let's see if the camera can pick that up. I don't know if it will. A little bit. There you go. Comes in tons of colors. So I have a lot of it as scraps because I do sew, but if you don't sew, then it's very easy to just go and buy a few fat quarters of it, and that'll be plenty to make some of these different things I'm going to show you. Now I'm taking a basic needle and thread, just using sewing thread, nothing special. You could use embroidery thread, whatever you have on hand. Now, on this side, there's a little indent where your needle can go in, but if you notice on this side, some of them are attached and some of them are not. So what you want to do is you want to come up, you want to go through both layers of fabric, and you'll come up here on one side of that piece that goes all the way through. There's a knot at the end of my thread, obviously. And then you go across, because you'll want to be able to take the template apart. So you don't want to stitch so that you're stitching across the closed portion. You want to stitch across the open. And again, you'll catch both pieces, both layers of fabric. Okay, so you'll just continue that around. This is another good thing to do in front of the TV in the evenings. I know a lot of people will take images upstairs to color. I can't do that. I make too big of a mess. There's not enough room. So a lot of times this is one of the things I'll do. And if you have a variety of colors, just toss them in a box or a drawer where you keep your embellishments, and then you always have some on hand. Now once you've done that all the way around, simply pop them apart again, slide your fabric off, and then pull your thread and it'll gather your fabric circle up. Into a little bunch, and then adjust it if you need to so that your gathers are sort of centered. And then to tie it off, I just push my needle through that center to the back, and then I'll make a little knot back here. Knot back here. So these are great for layering with your felt, with flat pieces of die cut fabric. In the center, you can make really small ones, put them in the center of pre-cut flowers or pre-made flowers, and you can do them with any sort of fabric, any kinds of designs, or if it's Halloween and you use any fabric with the Halloween colors in it in any sort of design, you won't be able to make out the design, but you will know that it's Halloween. Now another thing I am going to show you are these little ruffly gathered flowers. And these are also really super quick and easy. On the end of our thread here. I'm always trying to rush. I'm like, oh, they're getting bored. But you can only prepare so much ahead of time. Okay, so we're going to start at one end of the fabric. I go through the top first. It makes it lay better in the end. But then I am just doing a very large, wide, whatever you want to call it, sort of stitch through this strip of fabric. Let's see if you can see it. So here's my large stitches, kind of far apart, because you're going to gather this. See, as you pull it, it'll gather. So you do that all the way down, and I do several at a time. Just pinch the fabric, go through. I'm not using a super sharp needle so that I don't stab myself, which I tend to do when I have a sharp needle. So I'll pull it through, and as you can see, it gathers and it just naturally sort of flows around in a circle. So you continue doing that, continue on down. Can do this as a one layer gather with a shorter piece of fabric, which is what I've done here. Let's see if we can get you closer in there. Or you can sort of spiral it in, which I've seen a couple of flowers like that recently. Forget which company had them. And this one I thought would be nice for a spiral, because when I cut it, I don't always measure exactly and use my ruler to cut. Sometimes I just grab my rotary cutter and cut. And this one ended up skinny on one end and a little wider on the other. So I've gone all the way through. And what that's going to do is that as it spirals around, you have a cool little flower. So you want to gather it up tightly. And then I'll make a knot here at the end. I leave a little bit of looseness right here at the end so that I can adjust my layers as I'm making the actual flower, since this will be a spiral one. If this was just the one layer, I would gather it tightly and then stitch the two ends together to hold it in place. Now as my base, I have a little circle of double-sided sticky paper that I cut out. I think this one's by Ranger. I believe there's some by Score Pal. But when you peel it off, you have a sticky surface, and you can just stick your flower to that as a base and go around. And this is nice because then you also have something to use to stick it onto your project with, because you can peel off the back once the fabric is stuck down. And a button in the center, or a piece of felt in the center, anything you want as the flower center. You're good to go. Throw it in your stash box. You can also do the little sticky, double-sided sticky with some ribbon. Just twist the ribbon around and around. So I hope you found those useful. I'd love for you to try them out. Remember to check favecrafts.com for lots of other free tutorials and videos. Thanks so much.